The state capitol played host to White Cane Safety Awareness Day on October 15th. Here to discuss some of the challenges involved with being legally blind and working here at the Minnesota Senate, we have Senator Torrey Westrom joining us. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Great to be here.
Senator, let's begin with some of the key issues today facing those who are visually impaired. What are they?
Well, just the practical issues, first of all. You've got to learn to live independently without sight. There's a lot of adaptive techniques that you pick up yourself. You can learn through training facilities that are available through State Services for the Blind and other entities around the state, but generally coordinated through State Services for the Blind in our state. And that's valuable to persons that are facing blindness or have been in an accident and all of a sudden find themselves without eyesight. It runs the gamut. Some people are blind from birth, some people lose it in their teens or 20s, and others as they get older. And so those are all challenges just living. The other thing is employment. For those in the working age, unemployment is very high for persons with blindness, and that is an issue that they still face, and it's an issue that I've always held near and dear to my heart, because I think that number should come down and could come down the more we offer persons with disabilities and blindness specifically training opportunities and employment opportunities.
You talked a little bit about challenges. It's safe to assume that it had to have been fairly challenging to try to navigate around a building that's more than 100 years old. What were some of the things that you faced when you became a member of the legislature?
It was a big building, and so it just seems massive when you start looking at this, and then the Capitol complex with the state office building across the street. But when I first was elected, I came down for about 3 days, literally, and just walked and traced the Capitol complex, the state office building and the Capitol at the time. And you kind of take it on in pieces. Where do you need to go for committee? Where do you need to go for offices? Where do you need to go to the bathroom? Where do you need to go to the practical things? And then branch out from there. And that's what I did. And over now 17 years, it's become more second nature. But admittedly, this past year with me first joining the Senate for the first time after the 2012 election, there's a lot of building space that I have not covered in the Capitol, because in the House of Representatives we use the north end of the Capitol, and most of our meetings are over in the state office building, and conference committees are in the committee rooms in the Capitol. But there's a lot of areas that I hadn't been to just because it wasn't part of the House of Representatives. So in the Senate I did some of the same thing. I took an afternoon or a day with the sergeant's office actually at that this year, and just became more familiar with the rooms around the Capitol. You memorize it, and that's what I've done. And again, you get that, you work from a base map in your mind of where the elevator is, where the chambers are, and then at least I branch out from there in my mind and figure out where things are connected. When you come down the steps, if you go right, what will you hit? If you go left, what will you hit? Where the rooms are. But let me share an experience I had this year.
Absolutely.
One of the things is you got to use your memory. Where are you? And there was one time I was going to committee, and I had been at an event on ground floor, and somehow had in my mind I was on first floor, and kept going down to the north end looking for the committee room. And lo and behold, I could not find that committee room. Well, long story short, I turned myself around a couple different times, went back and forth, and finally I ran into somebody I knew, and I said, "Can you just tell me, is this first floor or ground floor?" And she told me it's ground floor, and that of course solved my problem. But you don't have those visual cues, and something didn't look right because the doors weren't where they were supposed to be. So I knew I was on the wrong floor, but of course you kind of get turned around when you can't see, and so you have to deal with that.
So, Senator, I want to ask, what are some of the tools that you utilize to help effectively legislate, like technology, some of the things besides your memory that help you here at the Capitol?
Sure.
And then what are some of the things that you would like to see done? We're in the middle of this Capitol restoration project. Are there some things that you're going to recommend that could make life a little bit easier?
Well, first part, the technology. Technology is a wonderful thing. If I had to pick a time to be blind, it probably would have been the time I lost my eyesight in a farm-related car accident, because computers were just becoming the norm, and computers in the last 25 years have advanced a long way. And I use a computer with speech to do a lot of things. The laptops we carry around here in the Senate, we used to carry them in the House, and they still do. That is a main piece that I use, speech on my computer. You know, I talked about the State Services for the Blind. They have computer tech folks, and you know, they help me get my computer set up just like they would help other people that are getting in, you know, into a new job or an independent living situation. And so the computer with speech is a big thing. I also have a computer, which is a small one. They call it a Braille light, and that's a note-taking device. A little antiquated for today's time, but you know how you get familiar with something from 20 years ago and it still works, and I still use it. So, you know, that's one of the things. You know, the markings of rooms with Braille and things like that are important when you get off elevators, on elevators. You know, I usually check the number, especially if I'm not confident where I'm, you know, which floor the elevator stopped at. So I also use that. You know, with somebody that lost my eyesight at age 14, I had learned to read. I had done all the things that a sighted person does, and so I hadn't learned Braille when I was a child. And so I don't read Braille as proficiently as some that maybe have been blind since birth, or some that didn't have the technology that we have nowadays to use to read documents, emails, Word documents, legislation, websites. All of that stuff is read on my computer. And so, incidentally, I don't use Braille as much as some people that maybe have learned it since birth or weren't around when they had the technology, or the technology wasn't as available. But I think the younger a person is right now, the more they probably use technology to navigate the needs of the world.
So, Senator, working under the assumption that you're a strong advocate for visually impaired legislation and services, do you find any gaps in services that are existing currently? And is there anything that you'd like to pursue next session that would make it easier for anybody with a disability?
Oh, I do find gaps from time to time. I mean, it's just going to happen no matter what it is. And sometimes it's just simple, you know, education of people, and they don't think about it until, you know, somebody's faced with the situation. I don't think about it until I get into the situation, and all of a sudden, oh, now how do I get the amendments on the Senate floor so I can have quick access to them like everybody else does? Well, the Senate IT folks have been great to leapfrog with what we used in the House, and actually, I think, make some improvements. And I have a website that they've created for me that has all of that stuff that comes right up. And so, you know, some of it's you're a pioneer and you're the first person to do it. And so, until that happens, I don't blame anybody for not knowing what needs to be done. And to the extent possible, if I can be a trailblazer or a person that can help set up some of these designs, I hope I can be. You know, but there's always things that come up that PDF documents have been a real challenge. People think, and I say, you know, if we can get it electronically, then my computer will read it. Well, a scanned PDF is different than an original PDF. And a scanned PDF looks like a picture to the computer. An original PDF is readable. And so, I mean, those are some glitches in technology, and I have to deal with on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And we've got other software in our office that converts some of those things, but sometimes you have to take a few steps to get those documents into a readable form in the technological sense. You know, with the hearing rooms, you know, the sergeant's office and staff, both in the House and the Senate, have always been very willing to change or meet needs, but they're not designed for computers for any of us senators. And for myself, I use the computer to read the bills, to read the amendments, to read the handouts that testifiers are bringing. So it's important to have electrical outlets, for example. used to be hardwired. They had to remodel a lot of committee rooms and put DSL cables in. Now they've got more wireless going, but I mean, those are all advances that these rooms, nobody could have fathomed 100 years ago.
Right, right. And unfortunately, Senator, we are out of time, but I do believe it's a fair statement to say that you are a trailblazer. And I really appreciate you coming in and providing very interesting perspective on what it's like to legislate with certain challenges. So thank you.
Well, thank you.